Chapter 7 of our book is called No Grandpa's Here. I sit on my bed, holding my copy of Alice in Wonderland. The shaky writing in the front of the book says, "For Allie, my wondrous girl, love Grandpa." The colors of the book are bright, even though the book is old. Inside, the pages are soft and the writing is bigger than in books now, but I still can't read it by myself. It's like having a gift that's locked in a glass box. I'm feeling heavy, but I always do on Sunday nights. The thought of another week of school does that. It's like knowing I have to pull a tire through a keyhole the next day. But I have a new teacher, and Mr. Daniels sounds like a grandfatherly type with pockets full of lollipops, which would be nice. I'm hoping he'll spend a lot of time straightening his bow ties and telling us about the good old days and not giving us much work. When I show up, I find that Mr. Daniels is no grandfather. He's younger than Miss Hall. He wears a dark jacket and a tie with colored circles on it. When I get closer, I realize they're planets. Most of the kids are gathered around him. I throw my stuff in the closet and walk over. He says, "My very excellent mother just served us nachos," and claims it as an easy way to memorize the planets in order from the sun. Albert, whose hair reminds me of a bird's nest, stands nearby. I feel bad for Pluto. I look over and my eyes are pulled to the bruises on his arms. Pluto was a planet all those years, and then someone just decided it wasn't anymore. Too small, too far away, orbit not just right. "I don't really think Pluto cares, Albert," I mumble. He sits in his car and says, he sits in his chair and says, "Well, I do." I feel bad for him, and I want to ask him about the marks. He is big and clunky, but not fat, the kind of size where others would usually leave him alone. I pull out my chair and sit down. Okay, I tell myself, I'm going to do better. I'm going to work harder. That's all I need to do. I'm going to really concentrate this time, even though I know I've tried that and it doesn't work. Reading for me is like when I drop something and my fingers scramble to catch it, and just when I think I've got it, I don't. If trying to read helped, I'd be a genius. Mr. Daniels is in front of me. I hold my breath and lean back. He holds out his hands. "I'm Mr. Daniels. Nice to meet you," he says. Shay leans towards Jessica. I guess he doesn't know who he's talking to. As usual, most of her friends laugh. "Hey," Mr. Daniels says, turning to her. "That isn't cool. We don't do that in here," which wipes the smile off Shay's face. Then he turns back to me. "What's your name?" "Allie Nickerson," I answer so softly that even I can barely hear myself. "Well, are you going to shake my hand, Allie Nickerson?" he says. "I don't bite on Mondays." Great, just what I need, a funny guy for a teacher. I take his hand, but only for a second. My mind is already spinning off, wondering what terrible things Miss Silver has told him. The plans they've made for me. I see myself wrapped in a rope and lying on the train tracks, just like Grandpa's old black and white silent movies. "Okay, Fantasticos, take your seats," he calls. "Time to set the world on fire." Everyone scrambles to their seats, but I'm still lying on the imaginary train tracks, all tied up and watching the engine come around the corner. So Allie is a bit disappointed about her teacher. She was hoping that he'd be older and more of like a grandpa type, and that she could get him off task and get him talking about old days, and that might get her from not doing work. And it seems like her new teacher is young and kind of with it. But he does something really cool. He notices that the other kids are not being kind, and he calls them out on it and just says, "We don't do that in here." And it seems to stop it really quick. Sometimes all something like that takes is an adult pointing out that something isn't right, and hopefully that's something that will help Allie and will allow her to focus more on her schoolwork and less on those mean kids in class. So hopefully this new teacher is a good thing for her. We'll see how it works out for her.